All right, and we back on the forecast. So in Atlanta, a 26-year-old sister, Alexia Christian, was shot 10 times by Atlanta police while she was handcuffed in the back of a squad car. Now let's see how this sister could get shot 10 times while handcuffed in the back of a police car.
Fox 5 has newly released video of a deadly confrontation between a woman in custody and Atlanta police. APD says they found a stolen pickup truck in downtown Atlanta, and inside they saw Alexia Christian. Police say they arrested Christian, put her in the back of a police cruiser. The officers say she opened fire after she slipped one of her hands out of those handcuffs. Fox 5's Natalie Pozo joins us now with the video and some new information.
And Natalie, this deadly confrontation was in April of last year. So what exactly does the dash cam show?
Well, the dash cam video only shows the front part of the patrol car, but it does capture Christian and officers exchanging words, and you can hear gunshots. Here's some of that dash cam video.
Put the gun down. Put the gun down.
I don't have a gun.
Put the gun down.
Out! Out! Out!
Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard says their investigation concluded that Christian grabbed a gun she had apparently taken from the stolen truck. Now, because the rear camera was off during the incident, Christian's family says they're still unsure whether their daughter actually drew a weapon. The DA says unless police turned on the backseat camera, a recording would not have occurred, and says the Atlanta Police Department is making a change in their regulations. Howard also says the Fulton County 911 operator failed to inform the Atlanta Police dispatch operator that it was reported that there was a weapon inside of that stolen vehicle. Officials say the dispatcher was disciplined, and the Atlanta Police Department is now looking into why Christian was not searched well enough to determine she had a gun.
The Atlanta Police Department, as I understand it, is now reviewing them for administrative disciplinary action after our office indicated that there would be no criminal charges.
And just a short time ago, the mother of Alexia Christian sent this statement to Fox 5 through the family's attorney. It reads, "The handling of this case by Atlanta Police Department has been traumatizing to my family. The lack of transparency, professionalism, and compassion has been heartbreaking. We will continue lifting up my daughter's memory as we forever deal with her loss."
So the police say they found his sister Alexia Christian in a stolen pickup truck. And they said when they searched her, they found some drugs, but they didn't find a gun. So as they put her in the back of the police car handcuffed, they said Alexia was somehow able to get out of the cuffs and magically found a .380. And they said she fired 3 shots at the cops sitting in the front seat. Now somehow she still missed them at point blank range, and neither of the cops got hurt, even though the bullets just missed them. So they said they quickly got out of their car and ended up shooting her 10 times. Now, I don't know if these cops were the Flash, because all those shots were close together for them to get out of the car and then shoot her. And you can hear this woman say, "I don't have a gun," while they're shooting her. And if I did have a gun, I don't know if that would be the thing I would say while they're shooting me, instead of, "Okay, I'll drop the gun," or whatever. But the police said it was clear they didn't search her, even though they said they found drugs on her, so they had to do something. But they found drugs on her, but not a gun. They're basically saying she waited, got searched, got handcuffed, then escaped the handcuffs to shoot at him at point blank range, but still missed. And the police decided to discipline the 911 operator, even though I don't know how they knew she had a gun, especially when the cops didn't know she had a gun, even after they searched her. But they still punished the 911 operator. Now, eventually, they did decide to release the dash cam video. And they said they usually have a camera in the back that's recording, but for some reason this time it happened to be turned off. And there was surveillance footage from the cameras around the area, but the police refused to release it. And these cops were cleared of all charges, even though they refused to get an outside investigator because they wanted to investigate themselves. But this is the same police department that shot and killed a 24-year-old brother, Deaundre Phillips.
District Attorney's Office has released surveillance video in a deadly officer-involved shooting. An Atlanta police detective shot and killed Deaundre Phillips last month in front of the Atlanta Police Public Safety Annex building on Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway. The shooting caused public outcry for release of evidence in the case. Fox 5's Morris Diggs has followed the story since the very beginning. He joins us now live. And Morris, how did the Phillips family respond to what was on that video?
Well, this video is taken from a distance. It's a camera on the building, so what we'll be able to show you is limited, but take a close look. Now, an attorney for the family of Deaundre Phillips says the video does support evidence he's been able to gather that the shooting was unjustified and the encounter never should have happened. The Atlanta detectives say they were at the police annex parking lot about to go inside. They're in a red unmarked vehicle. They walked over to a vehicle Deaundre Phillips was in because they say they smelled marijuana. About 30 seconds will elapse. The next action, according to police, shows one of the detectives involved in what appears to be pushing and shoving. At one point, one of the detectives is inside, at least partially. The car starts up and drives off. Investigator Yasin Abdulahad fires a shot. An attorney for the Phillips family says the police account of what happened that night is full of lies.
We have zoomed in on the alleged door that the officer was hanging out of and being dragged from. It's completely shut. The other officer never even reaches for his weapon, never even drops his notepad and bag that he has. He stands there looking at the entire thing like, what is going on? Because it never should have happened.
And attorney Christopher Stewart says the falsehoods started from the very beginning.
I also spoke to the GBI, and they've confirmed that there was no lit marijuana cigarette in the car.
If we end up killing somebody that we shouldn't have done the way that he did, so yeah, I am expecting justice from him. I am expecting justice from Paul Howard. And I think everybody that's been out to support this family.
We had a rally of maybe a little over 200 people. Over 50% of the people that came out to support this family were white. Justice doesn't really see a color.
Emotions are high surrounding this case, with Chief Erica Shields saying that this detective, the one who fired the shot, is now being protected by Homeland Security. Chief Shields says it's important to get this video out because in cases such as this, she wants as much transparency as possible.
So the police pulled up to the Public Safety Annex in an unmarked car, a red sports car, in plain clothes, when they claimed they smelled marijuana coming from a parked car. So Officer Yasin Abdulahad approaches Deaundre's car, who was just sitting out there waiting on his friend to come out of the building. So this brother Deaundre Phillips got out of his car to talk to the cops. Then, according to the police, he lunged back in his car trying to leave. Investigators said the cop was partially in the car. He was still hanging off the door as his brother tried to pull off. So then he said he had no choice but to open fire. But it's clear from the video he wasn't hanging out of the car. It looks like he was in the car. The surveillance video completely contradicts the cop's story. His own partner never fired his gun or even pulled his gun. He didn't even drop his notepad or his bag that he had. The GBI also found there was no lit weed in the car, and they really had no business even bothering this brother. Now, in this case, they didn't bring up the brother Deaundre Phillips' past, probably because he didn't have a record, because that's the first thing they would have did. But this cop, Yasin Abdulahad, he did have a past.
And also developing tonight, one of the officers involved in the deadly shooting of a man outside the Atlanta Police Safety Annex is now accused of assaulting someone at a bar.
Well, Fox 5's Morris Diggs joins us now live from downtown Atlanta with the story. Morris?
APD wants to talk to the man in the separate incident, a bar fight. His name is Anthony Walters. He did not file a complaint in this case. However, a member of Black Lives Matter complained very loudly to city council members of the public safety panel.
This is Anthony Walters. He's a 21-year-old, 24-year-old black male who was beat by a member of the Atlanta Police Department. This officer is the same police officer who shot and killed Deaundre Phillips.
Atlanta City Council members listened closely, clearly wanting to know more about what a Black Lives Matter representative revealed in the Public Safety Committee meeting. This photo shows an Atlanta man, Anthony Walters, got the worst of it when, according to Atlanta authorities, the man refused to leave a Midtown bar, then initiated a physical altercation when both a primary and backup cop tried to remove him.
It's really one simple word: compliance. The officer asks you to do something. If you comply, there is no issue. If you don't, and you either swing on the officer or, as commonly known, bowed up like you're going to fight, that officer is going to protect himself.
Vince Champion is a leader with the APD union. The primary officer involved in the bar incident is the same one embroiled in a controversial fatal shooting at the Support Police building in Northwest Atlanta. His name, Yasin Abdulahad. Deaundre Phillips was killed in the incident. The union leader cautions the Atlanta citizens not to jump to conclusions.
One, we asked for them to look separately. They're separate incidents.
APD released a report on the bar fracas. Abdulahad said he made repeated requests for Walters to leave, but he said Walters took a fighting stance and shortly thereafter swung at him, striking Abdulahad in the face. When the confrontation was over, the report says Walters fell asleep before he was taken to Grady Hospital for his injuries. At the public safety session, members gave a deputy chief some marching orders regarding notification on citizen police encounters.
If the briefing has to be in executive session, that's fine, but at least so we're all aware of what's going on and not finding out on the sidewalk, on the street, when someone comes up to us and tells us there's a situation going on.
Now, Abdulahad, who is an Atlanta police detective, is a veteran of 11 years. The public safety council members said to the deputy chief there attending, they want to see his entire personnel file.
Now, this cop, Yasin Abdulahad, had prior complaints of unnecessary force, but he was never disciplined. Even after he shot the brother Deaundre Phillips, he was investigated for beating another man at a nightclub where he worked as security, not even a cop, but just as security. And he said this brother got severe facial injuries as a result of falling while he was being arrested. And even after all of this, he was never put off of the force. He never got in trouble. And of course, the International Brotherhood of Police Officers had his back, and they put their capes on for him. And when it comes to this cop, we shouldn't judge based off his history and what he's been through. Even though they justify profiling us because of what somebody does in Chicago. But this cop killing somebody shouldn't have no bearing on him beating somebody up after he killed somebody. And even though this cop isn't white, his victims were all black. Meanwhile, you have cops like Muhammad Noor who got charged the first time they harm a white woman like Justine Damon. But they get on code to protect themselves. And here it is, 400 years of our blood being shed, and we can't even get on code in order to protect ourselves. These cops can have problem after problem after problem, and they still cape for each other. Because it's not about justice. It's about maintaining this system. And we can never destroy this system if we don't put aside our tribalism. But until we do that, then we're going to continue to face the same problems. At the end of the day, we have to realize we are all we got.
Call it a tale of two shootings. Actually, let's make that three. Last March, Air Force veteran Anthony Hill was shot and killed by a DeKalb police officer, despite the fact that Hill was not just unarmed at the time, but naked. Just 2 months later, Alexia Christian was shot 10 times by Atlanta police after they handcuffed her and after they put her in the back of a squad car. Police say she must have had a gun hidden on her person and that she slipped out of the handcuffs and started shooting at them from inside the car. Now, in both cases, there are videotapes of events around the time of the incident. In both cases, the local DAs handled the investigations. And in both cases, the families of the dead publicly demanded what they believe is justice. But that's where the similarities end. The DeKalb DA took the Hill case to a grand jury, and they charged the cop with felony murder. But in the Atlanta shooting, Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard has done nothing. He hasn't charged the police. He hasn't cleared them. Most puzzling of all, he's yet to even release the videotapes, despite desperate pleas from the Christian family. Why? Videotapes don't lie. Releasing the tapes isn't going to change what they show. Why is DA Howard hiding these tapes?
Something going in my throat.
Was randomly stabbed right in the neck. The horrific scene playing out today. Officers seen here chasing and shooting that suspect.
The man in the black hoodie seen in this cell phone video just got done stabbing another woman on an RTC bus. And Robin was his second victim.
He just kept jugging and jugging. And
7 stab wounds later, Robin was able to escape.
I'm glad to be alive.
Police tried to use non-lethal bullets to take down the suspect who nearly killed 2 ladies. But ultimately, an officer had to fire a real gun to stop him. As Robin made it to the ER to recover from her stab wounds, she was shocked to learn her attacker was laying next to her.
He was in the bed next to me. I couldn't believe that.
Robin hopes the suspect receives maximum punishment.
He's crazy as hell.
The other victim from today's attack was also laying near her and the suspect. The other woman became so upset and started crying, asking hospital staff why he was near them.
First new tonight, a disturbing story coming out of a well-respected healthcare system in Metro Detroit.
A registered nurse claims she was discriminated against at Beaumont Hospital in Dearborn after a patient did not want to be cared for by an African-American nurse.
Let's get right to Glenda Lewis live in our newsroom right now with the latest on a legal battle that may be waged over this. Glenda?
Well, Carol and Dave, Beaumont Health is facing a federal lawsuit tonight alleging racial discrimination. In her lawsuit, Tioka Williams says a patient didn't want to be treated by an African-American nurse. A supervisor spoke with the patient, and Williams says she was reassigned. A white nurse took over. Williams then says the supervisor advised her that patient requests are honored at the hospital. The nurse says she suffered from humiliation, embarrassment, along with mental and emotional distress. We spoke to her attorney by Skype tonight.
I do know that the patient, as the complaint alleges, was lucid enough to make a racist comment and say she didn't want a black BITCH caring for her. So she certainly was lucid enough to make that racist comment. She is standing up against racism and race discrimination in the workplace. Her hope is that this doesn't happen to another caregiver.
We reached out to Beaumont tonight, and here is their official statement. While we cannot comment on the specifics of this case because it is pending litigation, we can say that Beaumont's highest priority is providing a safe environment that is free from discrimination for both our patients and staff, and delivering care with compassion, dignity, and respect.
Local hospital facing a racial discrimination lawsuit tonight. A nurse at Hurley Medical Center claims that she was not allowed near a newborn there because of the color of her skin. Our Liz Gilardi live at Hurley right now with a story that you'll see only on TV5. Liz?
Sam, here is a copy of that lawsuit. Basically, the nurse was taking care of a baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. According to these documents, the baby's father made a request, not based on the nurse's years of experience, but on the color of her skin. And according to this lawsuit, the hospital honored it. A nurse in the intensive care unit watching over a baby. A lawsuit claims she could no longer care for that patient, all because of her race.
It was shocking to her. She was very upset. She was very offended. She was in disbelief.
Attorney Julie Gafke is representing the nurse, Tanya Battle. She has been with Hurley Medical Center for 25 years. Court documents show the nurse was caring for the baby when the patient's father made the request. He didn't want any African-American nurses to take care of his child. The suit claims she was discriminated against, and the hospital reassigned the nurse. When she returned for work the next shift, she found an alleged note. According to the lawsuit, it said no African-American nurse to take care of baby.
On the outside of the chart and visible for anybody to see.
People we spoke to couldn't believe it.
Wow, that's setting us back tremendously.
If a baby was in desperate need of care, you wouldn't really care who would take care of them,
At some point, the note was removed. The lawsuit states the hospital notified the patient's father. His request would no longer be granted. But Gafke says the practice continued.
Even though they claimed they weren't going to continue to follow that, they weren't going to discriminate, they continued to de facto discriminate against my client and the other African American nurses, when for about the next month they never assigned any African American nurses to care for that child.
We reached out to Hurley Medical Center, but officials say they cannot comment on any pending legal matters.
The national attention on the complaints of racial profiling ramping up now. The ACLU calling it deeply troubling problems. And it is not confined to one city or just one community.
A Jacksonville attorney tells First Coast News that she and her children are victims of racial profiling. It all happened yesterday in her condo community. On Your Side's Ken Amaro spoke with attorney Nadia Jones.
That's correct. Nadia Jones is an attorney. She's an entrepreneur and she's a patient. She's Mexican Haitian heritage and she lives in a gated condominium community. Now, Jones told me she's lived in this predominantly white community for about 2 years without a problem. She says yesterday when she and her children decided the swimming pool at the condo, that's when they were racially profiled. Mira Vista Condominium is an upscale community, a gated neighborhood. Nadia Jones has lived there 2 years.
We were just trying to enjoy, the last days of summer.
Jones says on Wednesday she was at the swimming pool with her children.
There aren't that many families of color.
Jones now believes it is because of her color that another resident in a bold-faced manner told her to leave the pool.
She was very loud and started saying, if you're a non-resident, you need to leave. Listen to me. You're not going to tell us what to do or try to intimidate us. I don't care if you rent or own.
It's not a case of perception, she says. They were clearly targeted.
But it doesn't take an attorney to know when you're being targeted for the color of your skin and simply for who you are.
Her daughter quickly grabbed a cell phone and recorded the end of the verbal exchange.
She really made me feel like I was trespassing, almost as if we were criminals for doing nothing.
But you live there.
I've been living there for almost 2 years.
Jones has since posted the details in a short video clip on Facebook.
She was using intimidation tactics by trying to get us to leave.
Jones says the woman would only identify herself as the queen of the pool, but that doesn't give her the authority to act the way she did.
I've been really just kind of reflecting on what happened, and I felt dirty. I felt like a criminal. I was ashamed, and I did nothing wrong. I was just trying to enjoy an afternoon with my kids at the pool.
Now, Jones told me she filed a complaint with Kingdom Management. That's a property manager. I contacted Melissa, who's the agent at Kingdom Management, to see if they're taking the allegations seriously, but she has yet to respond.
Steve, to some of you, my volunteers this morning, I'll show you how good a dog's human odor on those things. And he knows from his training that he's to down when he finds something, when the handler tells him it has human odor on it. So, for instance, if a bad guy is running and he drops a cell phone, or he drops this piece of leather that may have evidence or DNA on it.
I'm Hank Stawinski, and I am the chief of the Prince George's County Police Department. As I have said throughout my administration to my community, when I have the facts, you will have the facts. And the fact is that on Friday, members of our Canine Corps were presenting to a group of children in order to foster understanding about what canine dogs do and how they operate. During that presentation, one of our handlers made an unfortunate remark. The reality is that that officer misspoke. I have talked to the officer, and he's very troubled by the response that this is eliciting in comparison to his record of service to this community. What I know is that this community doesn't expect us to be perfect. It does expect us to acknowledge when we've made a mistake, and that's what I'm doing today. So on behalf of that officer and this institution, I apologize to this community for that unfortunate remark. But I want you to know that that remark does not represent who that officer is, and it does not represent what this institution stands for. And so with that, again, I apologize, and I appreciate you taking the time to view this message.
If I were Earl Sampson, I think if you were Earl Sampson, I think we could all agree we'd be really ticked. Because Earl Sampson in Florida has been stopped and questioned by police a total of 258 times. 258. And all of that in just 4 years. The searches, 100 times. Arrests and jailings, 56 times. Almost every single one of these citations was issued at the very same place, the convenience store where Earl Sampson works. Our correspondent John Zarella is tracking the story in Miami. First of all, can we be clear? Is Earl Sampson an incredible criminal, or is there something stinky in that town?
No, you know, and according to his attorney, that there's nothing on his criminal record other than a marijuana possession charge, and that most all the times when he's been picked up, detained, everything's either been dismissed, thrown out, and not adjudicated. Nothing with Mr. Sampson. In fact, his attorney says that if you added it up, all those times that you mentioned, that's the equivalent to being arrested about once a week for the last, or picked up or detained, once a week for the last 4 years. Now, Miami Gardens police say they're taking the allegations against their officers seriously. They're looking into the complaints and allegations that their officers are targeting black males. And the mayor of Miami Gardens, which is just south of north of Miami, says that, look, this is a high crime area and we have zero tolerance. Here's what Mr. Sampson told local affiliate WFOR.
They always stopping me, going in my pocket, asking me for my ID, running my name.
So how did all this get started? About 1.5 years ago, the owner of the convenience store had had enough. So he installed surveillance cameras to catch the police in action to see what they were doing. He recorded dozens of instances where police were stopping different people, including Sampson.
Worked for the temp service. And he didn't have to do what we tend to do. I'll kill him. Shoot that if they let me. All right. Well, check out what's going on down here. Thank you. Bye.
That is part of an audio recording attached to a federal lawsuit, with the plaintiff, Mary Ingram, and her attorney, Ed Buckley, claiming the recording is of Beaufort City School District Superintendent Guy Hamby, using the N-word and other profanities several times to refer to temporary employees. Ingram was fired last fall from her position as a paraprofessional at Beaufort Academy.
I was shocked, but I had heard him speak, not use the language, not use the N-word, but he had talked to me like that earlier.
The federal lawsuit claims Ingram received high marks on a 2014 performance review with Beaufort City Schools. And then she began speaking up about how the black community was represented in the district and began attending Board of Education and City Council meetings. In 2015, she started receiving a series of write-ups and was eventually fired. She believes the write-ups and firing came as retaliation and were racially motivated.
The fact that they took my job and I'm doing all that I can. I love the children. I used to wake up looking forward to going to work every morning.
The lawsuit also names Beaufort Academy principal Colleen Pulley as a defendant for allegedly playing a role in Ingram's firing and asking her to, quote, run by with her what she would say at the Board of Education or City Council board meetings so that she could let Dr. Hamby know ahead of time.